Imagine waking up, climbing a wall to check on your neighbors, and finding that a community of 70,000 people has been physically transformed into animals. The punishment fell because the townspeople believed they successfully engineered a legal loophole to trick God. To understand how this happened, we have to look at the world they lived in. This is the kingdom of Israel under the rule of Prophet Dawood, or David. His empire was massive, stretching all the way from the Euphrates River down to Damascus. But Dawood operated differently than typical ancient monarchs. Despite holding absolute, unquestioned power, he governed himself under an incredibly strict, almost painful moral standard. In a kingdom ruled by a man of total, uncompromising sincerity, an entire town attempting to use technicalities to bypass divine law triggered a catastrophic physical response. As both a prophet and a king, Dawood had total access to immense wealth and resources. Like any sovereign state, the empire maintained a Beitul Mal, or public treasury, funded by the vast territories under his control. Yet he refused to take a single coin from it for personal or family expenses. By refusing state funds, despite his absolute authority, Dawood established the ultimate baseline for accountability. If the ruler relies entirely on his own labor, the standard of integrity expected from the common citizen leaves zero room for deception. If the king didn't take public money, how did he actually survive? He relied on a highly specific physical miracle. In his bare hands, solid iron became as soft as wax. He used this ability to weave the world's very first zira, or chainmail armor, molding the metal rings by hand without the need for blazing forges or heavy hammers. He produced and sold one suit of armor each day, using a portion of the earnings to feed his family and giving the rest away to charity. His spiritual sensitivity matched his physical discipline. Once, when two men jumped the wall of his private sanctuary to settle a dispute, Dawood recognized it as a divine test. He made a minor misjudgment in his response, realized his error, and immediately fell to the ground in a weeping prostration. Dawood possessed immense physical strength, yet he kept it entirely in check through an overwhelming fear of God. He proved that true authority requires total submission. Far from the capital, a coastal river town within Dawood's kingdom faced a very different kind of test. The residents lived under a strict divine restriction. They were absolutely forbidden to catch fish on the Sabbath, which fell on Saturday. This chart shows the cruel paradox of their situation. The local fish populations near the shore remained completely flat all week, but spiked dramatically on the exact day they were forbidden to cast their nets. This schematic shows their mechanical loophole. They dug shallow trenches linking the river into artificial holding pits. On Friday evening, high tide carried the swarming fish through the trench. They would then drop a barrier, trapping the fish to casually collect on Sunday. Their legal defense was entirely semantic. They claimed that since their hands never physically pulled a fish from the water on a Saturday, they strictly obeyed the Sabbath. They weaponized the letter of the law to completely bypass the spirit of it. They genuinely believed the Creator could be outsmarted by a bit of civil engineering. This deceit fractured the town into distinct factions. A righteous minority warned the abusers to stop, but their advice was met with open mockery. Eventually, Prophet Dawood himself became aware of the situation and issued stern warnings of divine wrath. But the abusers refused to stop. The loophole had made them incredibly wealthy, and they were unwilling to give up their new standard of living. The situation deteriorated so severely that the righteous group built a massive dividing wall straight through the middle of the town to physically quarantine themselves from the rule breakers. Society had reached a tipping point. Technical deceit became so normalized and so profitable that honest citizens had to physically isolate themselves just to survive. Then, one morning, the righteous group woke up to complete silence from the other side of the wall. Concerned, they climbed over the wall to investigate. What they found was a gruesome physical manifestation of the townspeople's inward state. The loophole abusers had been transformed into animals, the youth into monkeys, and the elders into pigs. The transformed citizens still recognized their relatives. They wept at their fate, and within 3 days, the entire group died off without leaving a single descendant behind. Dawood possessed unmatched worldly power and yet wept in repentance over the slightest misjudgment. Meanwhile, his ordinary subjects thought they could outsmart the all-seeing with a dirt trench. True obedience requires the submission of the heart and the intentions behind our actions. A technicality might hold up in a human court, but it will never deceive the divine.